If you've ever wondered why handguns are illegal in the UK, this is it. This is the reason. This is quite a deviation from my normal content, but I wanted to talk to you about Dunblane. My grandma was a TA, a teaching assistant, at the high school down the road from the primary school. Since my parents' divorce, I visited Dunblane every single summer, sometimes multiple times a year. I was only told of the incident by my grandma when I was maybe 10, 15. I was not compos mentis in 1996. My view of Dunblane was and is idyllic. It's childhood memories and holidays and love and family. It's going to the local park and the local Tesco and the local station and the hillsides and the lochs and all of that. It's not one day, 3 minutes in one day. So that's how I'm going to start the story. And just a proviso, my accent is English. I lost my Scottish accent when we moved, but a lot of Scottish words I've only really heard in a Scottish accent. And my accent comes back when I either get really excited, am in Scotland, or say Scottish words. So Edinburgh, Stirling, Dunblane, Lochleven, anything like that sets me off a little bit. So if my accent starts wandering, it's because of that. We're talking about the lowlands of Scotland. So in Scotland, there's a bit of a divide between the Highlands and the lowlands. The Highlands are like proper Scottish, and the lowlands are seen as less hardy, but it's cold anywhere you go in Scotland, really. The difference between the Highlands and lowlands of Scotland really is that the Highlands have got more mountains and the lowlands have got more hills. Dunblane is surrounded by rolling, lush green hills because obviously lots of rain, because Scotland and the UK generally. When we're talking about this geographical area, it is absolutely steeped in Scottish history. You may know from the film Lionheart that in 1297, William Wallace and Andrew Moray fought against the English and won at the Battle of Stirling Bridge, which again is about a 20-minute drive or 2-hour walk from Dunblane. Shortly later in 1314, Robert the Bruce, another famous Scottish warrior, defeated the English at Bannockburn, which again is just down the road. He was defending Stirling Castle, and it's so rich in history, this area. If we look at this map from the 1300s, you can see that Edinburgh has been overtaken by, I think, the Duke of Northumberland because of some treaty, but Stirling and just above that Dunblane is still very much in Scottish territory. And in case you didn't know, until 1603, when Elizabeth I passed away and was replaced by James I of England, or the 6th of Scotland, this Scottish-English rivalry has been going on for millennia. Okay, so the fact that these things are happening around this area, you're seeing it as being a very important place for people to be and have battles and declare who they are. Dunblane has a population of about 9,000 people today. Stirling, which is a city close by, about 20 minutes or a couple of train stops, has a population of about 36,000, so quite a bit bigger. It's true that it is a village, it's not very big if we look at it on a map. I'm more familiar with the western side of it, that's where my lot were. That's also where the primary school and the high school are. Nowadays there's a massive wind farm nearby, so when you come off the M9 you see the wind farm, you go, I know where I am. The train station has 2 tracks, one running to Edinburgh, the other running away from Edinburgh, and the way that you get from one side of the tracks to the other is you have to go up this massive bridge, massive for small legs, and across, and you either go down in the middle to go on one side, or you go down the other side, on the eastern side of the platform. That's the way that you get to Edinburgh if you want to go the other way, which I don't think I've ever been past Dunblane, but if I had, it would be the closest. It's the Tesco side of the station. So the Tesco side's on the west. It's an absolutely massive Tesco store that I remember going in with my grandma, and she used to get me bits of stationery and magazines, which obviously, you know, like a young girl was absolutely thrilled by. That's my memory of the Tesco. It's bisected by the Allen Waters, which is a lovely russet-coloured river originating in the Ochils, and it goes through Dunblane, Bridge of Allen, before finally emptying out into the River Forth, which is an absolutely massive river that goes past Stirling and Edinburgh, and the Firth of Forth, which is the mouth of the river into the North Sea. There's a bridge called the Forth Road Bridge in Edinburgh that is really famous. It's got, you know, those triangles that I don't know the name of. The reason that the water is that colour is because it's got a lot of iron in it, and that's why Iron Brew is called Iron Brew, because it's got a lot of iron in it historically, and you know, it was made with the water from Scotland that is ferrous. If that's a thing that you can call water. Dunblane's got a beautiful, imposing cathedral from possibly the 1000s or thousands, but it was rebuilt a few times, so 1200s and then in the Victorian era as well. That might be where Dunblane gets its name, by the way, meaning Fort of Blaine, after Saint Blaine, who was a Scottish Christian bishop, say that 5 times fast, in about 590 from the Isle of Bute, which is on the west coast of Scotland. It was really popular in the Victorian times because of the waters around it was supposed to be healing. So there's a load of Victorian architecture on the high street. There's also a famous gold postbox for Olympic reasons. And if you pop along to Dunblane Museum, you can buy some tablet, Taiblet, which is a Scottish fudge that's quite hard. It's delicious. A bit sickly, but delicious. Mid-March 1996, a couple of weeks before Easter. We're talking about a period of probably petrol cars, probably manual. If you did have a car, then you'd be looking at a Ford, probably an Escort, a Fiesta, a Mondeo. You had a landline phone, maybe even still a black and white TV. Only 9% of UK households had access to the internet, and it wasn't instantaneous. It took minutes to load up. You got your information from the community, your friends, family, the news, the newspaper. Locals said it was a particularly cold morning, there was a heavy frost, and even some of the winter snow still on the ground. They remark upon the beauty of the morning, with an abundance of snowdrops to be seen. Up until my grandma told me about it, I didn't even know where the primary school was. An entrance lies between 2 unassuming Victorian brick walls, and another is just a gate. You have to know that it's there. It's not really obvious from the main road that runs through Dunblane. At about 9:30 in the morning of that unassuming midweek day, Wednesday, 13th of March 1996, a lone gunman, Thomas Hamilton, entered Dunblane Primary School after having first unsuccessfully tried to cut the telephone wire. He had on him 4 legal automatic reloading handguns and over 700 rounds of ammunition, enough for every single person in that building. He also had on a pair of protective earmuffs and eyewear. He had probably driven from 7 Kent Road, his family home the other side of Stirling, about 20 minutes through morning rush hour traffic to get there. One of the questions that people ask about this tragedy is, why Dunblane? Why did he drive 20 minutes to commit these atrocities? There were schools en route, schools closer by, and you don't want to wish that on anybody, on any children, on any family, but he went out of his way to get to Dunblane. He had it in mind, and we don't know why. In terms of his weapons, he'd been collecting them for years. In terms of his motives at all, we can only guess, but what we do know is that from the age of 20, he became affiliated with the Scouts, who then distanced themselves from him. He started up boys' clubs, calling them the Rovers, doing it on school property, and got shut down and then opened it somewhere else and then got shut down again. My grandma said that he was just a bit creepy. They called him the creepy man. To spell it out, he was suspected of having a paedophilic interest in the boys, but they didn't have enough evidence to charge him. As of early 96, there was another boys' club that the boys just stopped going to because they weren't comfortable. What Hamilton did in these instances was write loads of letters and ask the parents why and just generally harass them. Going back to area, it wasn't just Dunblane or Stirling or even Stirlingshire, it was a county over in Clackmanshire. It wasn't just in this one place. It just seemed that the hatred that he had culminated here. In March 1996, this guy was 43. The school day would have started at 9 a.m. So half an hour later, Thomas Hamilton walks up, shoots his way in, and then makes his way to the assembly hall. I can't find it to corroborate it now, but I think I was told that the reason that he tugged at the assembly hall was he was expecting everybody in the school to be there. Because of that time difference, there was a group of primary ones instead. The school system in Scotland is a bit different to the one in England, and I don't even know the difference between that and the American system. But the way that the schooling system in Scotland works is the cut-off date is every August. That's the start of the school year. Children starting primary 1 at that time were between 4.6 years and 5.6 years old. It's their very first year of school. They're learning how to read, how to the alphabet, basic maths, just having fun in that classroom still. Thomas Hamilton enters that gymnasium with his ear protection and his eye protection, shoots his way past the teacher, Gwen Mayer, and then starts shooting indiscriminately. The shootings were heard elsewhere in the school, but no one was really sure what was going on. There were groups of children on the way to their own PE classes, but thankfully some had the presence of mind to go ahead and work out what was going on. They came back to warn their classmates, who all hid. This distracted Hamilton, who shot at them. He exited the assembly hall and tried to go after them. Some members of that P1 class were able to hide in the supplies closet, protected by the 2 TAs, who themselves were injured. The children were bleeding, in pain, and in a severe state of distress, and the teachers had to hush them in case Hamilton came back, which he did. Hamilton returned to the assembly hall and shot again at his young victims, some of whom were still alive, but pretending not to be. Then, 3 minutes after the beginning of his rampage, he got a fresh gun and turned it on himself. There were 32 people who had a right to be in that room that day. 29 Primary 1 students, their teacher, their teaching assistant, and the physical education teacher. At the school, Hamilton took the lives of the teacher and 15 children, and another child passed away at the hospital later. 15 more people, most of whom children, were wounded. About 10 minutes after the incident had started, word had reached the headmaster about the possibility of a gunman on the premises, and he called the police. An ambulance was called a couple of minutes later. The first ambulance arrived about 15 minutes later, at 9:57, within half an hour of the beginning of the shooting. By 11:10, 1 hour and 40 minutes after the start of the shooting, all of the injured were in hospital. 5 minutes later, at 11:15, the police made their first statement confirming the deaths of 13 children. In the meantime, the global media descended upon Dunblane. The roads were gridlocked. Parents rushed to the school. Those with children in the class were ushered into a nearby house to wait. Parents speak of it like playing a numbers game. Of over 700 children in the school, if 13 had been taken, what are the odds that it was their child? The parents waiting in the house still had no idea. They had no access to the media coverage. It had taken some time to identify the victims because the adult who knew them best had been shot. In the end, the police took some teachers, including the headmaster, into the gymnasium to identify the children with the help of a class photo. 2.5 hours later, at 1:45 p.m, the police confirmed the final victim count of 17. In the horrific rush of the first shooting of its kind, the parents were not informed until after 3 p.m. Finally, at 9:45 p.m, the police confirmed the names of those who had been murdered. They are Gwen Mayer, the teacher, born 28th of June 1950, aged 45, Victoria Clydesdale, born the 16th of May 1990, aged 5, Mary Macbeth, born the 5th of November 1990, aged 5, Charlotte Dunn, born the 8th of August 1990, aged 5, Melissa Curry, born the 11th of January 1991, aged 5, Emma Crozier, born the 6th of April 1990, aged 5, Kevin Hazel, born the 20th of October 1990, aged 5, Ross Irvine, born the 20th of August 1990, aged 5, David Kerr, born the 28th of November 1990, aged 5, John Petrie, born the 19th of December 1990, aged 5, Hannah Scott, born the 28th of November 1990, aged 5, Joanna Ross, born the 28th of May 1990, aged 5, Sophie Lockwood North, born the 2nd of October 1990, aged 5, Emily Morton, born the 21st of June 1990, aged 5, Megan Turner, born the 10th of November 1990, aged 5, Brett McKinnon, born the 17th of January 1990, aged 6, and Abigail McClellan, born the 30th of May 1990, aged 5. This sort of incident is horrifically upsetting on a global scale, on a national scale. People were sending flowers and teddies from all over. The Queen came to visit, Diana sent her wishes, MPs were coming left, right and centre. People were undertaking pilgrimages to Dunblane just to pay their respects. But you can't understand how scarring it is for a community. I can't understand, and I have some insight into that community. When you Google Dunblane, the massacre comes up. People had their children ripped from their families, their mother ripped from their families in a second. A few months later, after learning that Hamilton had all these guns legally, the parents affected organised a massive campaign called the Snowdrop Campaign after the snowdrops that were in season that day. Remember, this was a few years before Columbine in the States. We haven't had another incident like it since, at least not with guns, and touch wood, we never have another. Knife crime is an issue in the UK and instances seem to be increasing, but it's a lot harder to take back a mistake with a gun, let alone a gun that is automatic in the hands of some horrible people doing some disgusting things. Guns aren't completely banned in the UK. You can get a permit to have one if you have a particular reason. For example, if you're a farmer and need a shotgun. We're not used to guns in the UK. We don't like seeing them, we don't like them being there. We just don't like guns. That was the impact of Dunblane on UK legislation. The parents fought for their children, took the issue to Parliament, and MPs across various political parties came together and chose children over guns. Why that is not an automatic answer elsewhere is terrifying. But growing up in the aftermath of Dunblane in the UK, I am eternally grateful for that decision. One question that gets brought up a lot is the whereabouts of the Murray brothers. So they were both there that day. Andy was 8 and his older brother Jamie was 10. They were in another classroom and they did hear the shooting. They were definitely there for the aftermath, and it affects them both to this day. Thank you for listening. I hope that's helped you understand a bit about Dunblane as a place instead of tied to this horrific event. This has been quite a difficult one for me to record. You can probably tell that I've been getting quite emotional in some bits, so I've been trying not to. And I don't know if it's because it's a place that's so close to me, or because I'm getting to the age now where I really understand what it's like to try to protect a child instead of be a child. It's just horrible, and I don't think anybody who wasn't there can fully understand the extent of that horror. Let me know if this is the sort of content that you like seeing from me. I can't guarantee that I'll do loads more because this was difficult, and yes, it's because I've got more of a personal connection to it. I don't have really that with anything else, maybe one other case. The UK is not like Midsummer Murders, but from there it would just be what everyone else has dredged up. I hope you have a great week, stay safe, and I'll see you in a few days. Bye.